Welcome back to the show. Well, the Liberal National political merry-go-round will continue this morning when Susan Lee and David Littleproud sit down for more talks, this time to hopefully decide on a coalition shadow cabinet. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is Liberal Senator James Patterson in Melbourne and Independent MP Allegra Spender in Sydney. Morning, guys. Hope you had a good weekend. James, band back together yet?
Well, mate, it's been a little bit messier and a little bit more public than we would have preferred, but I'm now very confident we're going to land in the right place, which is a strong coalition agreement between the Liberal and National parties. In this process, Susan Lee has stood up for really important principles to Liberals, including the principle of shadow cabinet solidarity, where we're all bound by the decisions of shadow cabinet. And David Littleproud of the Nationals have secured 4 important policy areas to them, which frankly a lot of Liberals share, whether they're in on holding this government to account and developing a compelling alternative policy agenda for the next election.
All right, so there's no sticking points at all, just water under a bridge.
That's right. We're just down to the details now, the kind of mechanical details, and I'm confident it'll be secured this week.
All right. Any front bench positions for you in all of that? Are you getting a promotion, demotion? What's happening?
Mate, we'll wait and see. That's a matter for the leader. As you know, in the Liberal Party, we don't elect our front bench like the Labor Party. It's up to Susan Lee, and I'll have those conversations with her this week.
Allegra, I can see a little wry smile on everyone's face. I mean, a good, strong opposition is good for the country, is it not?
Look, I think the government always needs to be held to account. And I think, to be honest, with a coalition in such disarray, I think you'll see more and more of that actually coming from the crossbench. But I'll be honest, I am disappointed that what we've seen from the coalition is, willingness to just accede to, whatever the national political demands are, rather than saying, hey, you've just lost an election in a way you've never lost one before. This is the time to really come back to the voters and asking them what's important. I think that's such a really big missed opportunity. And again, my kind of question is, what do the Liberal Party, who are meant to represent, who want to represent seats like mine, what do our communities get from this? It feels incredibly one-sided for the Nationals to get all their political demands, and then, the Liberals once again sort of being, the tail wagging the dog, and it seems, once again, that's what we'll see.
I don't think you're the only person asking that question, and I'm sure those inside the Liberal Party are doing that. And maybe you've got a take on it. James, what is the Liberal Party?
Stands for the timeless values that we've always stood for smaller government, for lower taxes, for more freedom, for strong families, for a strong national security and national defence. But candidly, our policies haven't always well reflected those principles and those values, and we need to make sure that happens. And we will be doing that careful process of listening to the Australian people, of hearing their verdict. You can't mistake the verdict that they rendered at the last election. It was a very clear one. And we'll be responding to that throughout this term, which I think will be an agenda which will inspire them that the country will get better under a Liberal national government.
Okay, Allegra, so the Prime Minister and other politicians can defer their super tax payments until retirement, while everyone else gets the cough up now. This is becoming a bit more of a joke, isn't it?
Look, I've been against this tax from the very start, and myself and other crossbenchers fought it last time and successfully worked with the Senate crossbench to not make sure that it wasn't passed in the last sitting period. Look, sadly, I think this again is just another, it's another problem that we have with this tax, that, some people get to defer it, other people don't. This is actually, and this is where I feel like the government still hasn't justified, particularly why they're so willing to tax paper profits people will never see. And, if it turns out someone's paid too much tax, they won't even get that tax back. So this is a problematic tax.
The horse is bolted though, right?
Look, I think the horse, they've got the numbers probably to get it through with the Senate, with the Greens, but I don't think it means that the government shouldn't look again at this. I think they rushed it through the first time. I think this is the time to take a step back, to consider, are there better options? They've made the case on why they want to tax high-value super, but can they do this in a way that doesn't fundamentally, violate some of the principles of our tax system? You don't tax paper profits. You don't tax money that people may never see.
See, James, it wasn't that hard. That's all we needed to hear from you before the last election. You might have gone a bit better.
Well, Carl, we've learned something important and new about the policy today, and Australians hate double standards, and they particularly hate double standards when it's politicians writing rules for themselves that apply differently to how they play for the rest of Australians. That's exactly what Jim Chalmers is doing. He's writing in a special rule for his boss, Anthony Albanese, who has a defined benefit pension, who won't have to pay this tax until retirement, unlike every other Australian who's subject to it. It's just another reason why this dodgy tax should be binned, and it should be binned today.
There we go. I can see that we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. Good on you, mate. Thank you so much. And Allegra, thank you too.